귀한 발걸음 해주신 여러분께 진심으로 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 저희가 시작하기 전에 레드펄스 CEO 조나단님께서 직접 한 말씀 하고 싶다고 하셔서 마이크를 넘기겠습니다.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Ha. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Pulse. And I want to thank you all for coming today. Really appreciate you taking your time out of your Saturday to come join us for the Phoenix event. And I'm sure all of you are wondering what Phoenix is about, so we'll be spending some good time to share more about that. And I also wanted to thank TrueBlocks, our partner here in Korea. They were instrumental in putting on this great event that we have today, so thank you very much. And I myself am also very looking forward to the event that we have today.
큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 네, 들어오시면서 팜플렛 한 장과 그 다음에 번호가 적힌 이렇게 슬립을 받으셨을 텐데요. 그 번호로 우리가 행사 끝 무렵에 럭키드로우를 진행할 테니까요. 그 번호 꼭 버리지 말고 끝까지 갖고 계셔 주시길 바랍니다. 그럼 이제 레드펄스가 주관하고 트루블룩스가 주최하는 레드펄스 피닉스 아시아 투어 인 서울을 진행하겠습니다. 먼저 영상부터 보시죠. 교육업계의 현황 그리고 지식의 분배에 대해 토론하겠습니다. 현재 관련 업계 어떤 기회와 어떤 문제가 있는지 그리고 블록체인이 앞으로 이 업계에 어떤 파장을 미칠지 패널분들과 함께 이야기 나눠보겠습니다. 먼저 유대시티의 로버트 숑님 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 파이낸셜의 매니징 파트너 단벤챈 모시겠습니다. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 드레이퍼 드래곤 VC 파트너 리처드 왕님을 모시겠습니다. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 네, 끝으로 포럼을 모더레이트 해주실 렌 뉴더 호스트입니다. CNBC의 크립토 트레이더의 호스트이죠. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
Hey everyone, thank you all for joining us. By way of introduction, my name is Ran Neuner. I host the world's only televised cryptocurrency show on television today. The show is called Crypto Trader and it is aired on CNBC Africa and Middle East. And from January, the show should be aired on CNBC USA as well. And I was the first one to get into getting televised content about cryptocurrency to the masses. That's my introduction, and I'd like to hand over to all the other panelists for a quick 30-second introduction about who you are and what you do.
Hello everybody, my name is Richard Wang from Draper Dragon Fund. Actually our fund is a quite typical equity venture capital, but we actually invest in the blockchain area for about 4 years already. So in the past we have overall global-wise we have 200 portfolios. In Korea, actually, recently we invested in Carry and Sentinel, and we are also a very key investor of Red Pulse. And so I'm very happy to be here to share some information with you guys. Thank you.
I run my own investment fund called New Silk Road Financial, and also one of the earliest investors in Red Pulse. I've been in the asset management and investment industry for more than 20 years. So New Silk Road now is my private investment vehicle. where we invest and partner with companies to scale and to exit with a China focus.
Now, before I let you go on, I need to ask you, how did you get to the name New Silk Road?
Yes, well, I was quite surprised I managed to incorporate a company with that name in Hong Kong. Because New Silk Road is also the name commonly used to describe the Belt and Road initiative in China, or One Belt, One Road. And it actually captures what I'm trying to do. We're focusing on businesses with a consumer focus, what I call the soft Silk Road.
Hi everyone, my name is Robert. I run Udacity in China and also APEC. Has anyone heard of Udacity here? Can you raise your hand? There's 2 or 3 people in the back. So Udacity is the world's largest IT training platform. We have over 10 million students on our platform, learning everything from web development to app development to AI, self-driving cars. And just last month, in partnership partly with Red Pulse, we launched a blockchain engineering course. So if you want to learn blockchain and launch your own ICO or do blockchain-related tech work, you can come to Udacity. So Udacity, we work with companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Baidu, WeChat to build really custom-made IT training courses on our platform where you can learn the skills, get certified, and get amazing jobs. And actually related to CNBC, we were just recently voted by CNBC as ranked number 8 on the world's most disruptive companies. So really excited to be here and support Red Pulse.
So what you're saying is you work for a very, very small company who makes a very, very small difference to the world.
That's right.
So today the topic of conversation is education, and we're going to specifically explore traditional education versus online education and try and find out what the gaps are in each and how everybody feels about each one. So the first statement that I'm going to make to you guys is today that, or the first question that I'm going to pose to you guys today is, where are we in terms of traditional versus online education? Who is ahead and why?
So in terms of traditional education, I think traditional education, its strength has always been in teaching the conceptual things, math, science, history, liberal arts, and so on and so forth. I don't think that's going to change. But I think over the past 10 to 15 years, I think we've seen technology accelerate at a rate that's really unprecedented in history. And what that means for the traditional education industry is that they have real difficulty sort of keeping up with that change. And so you go to any university and it's very rare that you can find any classes in blockchain, any classes in AI, any classes in robotics or self-driving car. And then that's where online education can really sort of fill the gap, right? So today, the ratio of jobs to sort of available talent out there for AI and blockchain is close to 5 to 1 or 10 to 1. So there are around, just in China alone, there are 5 million sort of positions out there for AI and blockchain that are not being filled, right? And this is partly a fault of traditional education because they just can't keep up with demand. They can't develop curriculum fast enough to meet this demand. And this is, for Udacity, this is sort of where we fill that gap and where we can help out.
So to dig into what you're saying there, you're talking about they can't fill the demand. Why can't they fill the demand? Why can online education do something so much quicker than traditional education? What is the barrier? Is the barrier the ability to write textbooks? What's the difference?
So just the process of launching new courses at universities takes close to a year or 2 years alone, right? That's number one. And second of all, a lot of the universities have these teachers who are disconnected from industry, right? And they are very, very good at what they do, which is like teaching things that have happened in the past, but not as great as sort of looking towards the future. And that's sort of where Udacity really falls in. So we are really focused, unlike some of our competitors, we're really focused with working with top companies.
So I'm going to challenge you there specifically, and then we'll move on to our other 2 guests. But I'm going to challenge you specifically around blockchain, because a lot of the blockchain projects today are coming out of universities. They're coming out of professors. You're talking about Elaine Shi, who started Thunder.com. You talk about Professor Dawn Song, who started the Oasis project, and many other projects that are actually coming out of university, which means that the people are in the university and the content is in the university. But unfortunately, they can't translate this quickly enough into education. And I'm trying to understand what the barriers are.
I think that's a really, really great question. So there's one statistic that I've seen recently where it's something like, not related to blockchain, but in AI. Of the 300,000 academics in AI, 200,000 now work in industry, which means they've left the universities and they now work in industry. So when 200,000, when 60% of the academics who are working in say blockchain or whatever, or AI, leave universities, who's there left to teach it? Right? So that's creating this huge problem.
So it's possibly a function of academics who feel that they can better achieve their dreams now in a decentralized industry versus what their dream was to spread knowledge to the world.
Exactly.
I'm going to hand over the mic to our two other guests and ask the same question for you. Where do you think we are when it comes to online education versus traditional education, and why?
Right. Well, I'm probably going to address the topic in a slightly different way, because I'm not actually from the education space. But let me share some ideas from the perspective of where industry that I come from, which is investment and finance. Right. I always like to tell my colleagues and clients over the last 20 years that in the investment or financial world, we are in a business of ideas. Right. At the end of the day, think about it. Right. When you're deciding to buy or invest in a stock or a company, you're trying to project the future, right? And it's really about who has the best ideas, who has the best analysis, or what we call intellectual capital. Right? Who has the best intellectual capital? So if I link it back to the question on education and knowledge, the question is, given the type of economies that we have today, with the new economy, with a lot of disruptive technologies coming into play, like obviously blockchain and a company like Red Pulse, who has actually the best intellectual capital to understand and assess companies like that? And I would say that traditional education, universities and the certification programs do not necessarily keep pace. They're not able to necessarily produce the type of insights that are necessary now in the new economy. And that's where I think online education provides a very interesting alternative because of the speed, the scale, and the instant accessibility across a very broad audience. Right? So now you don't need to have a 20 years of experience to produce a valuable insight compared to a fresh graduate out of school. Right? And because of that, it totally disrupts, I would say, the financial ecosystem, the research ecosystem, and that's also very much the reason I invested in Red Pulse.
So I'm going to ask you a question coming from the financial services industry, which is known to be a very traditional industry in their approach. If there are two candidates sitting in front of someone at JP Morgan or one of the big banks, one has a traditional university degree, a master's degree in finance and investment. Another one has no traditional degree, but has done 5 online courses. In the real world, what chance does the one with the 5 online courses have of getting the job before the guy with the traditional degree?
I think that's a great question. And well, I've been in senior management positions in big global banks over the last 20 years, and I've been involved in a lot of hiring decisions. And I can't speak for all the hiring managers out there, and that's part of the problem, right? Who's doing the hiring, right? But I have to say that personally, I would say that maybe in the first 5 years of my own career, I would look to paper qualifications, and I think that they're quite important because that was kind of how things were done in the past, right? You want to look at the CFAs, you want to look at the different which universities they come from, what courses they took, and so on. And I would say that probably a lot of hiring practices are still somewhat reliant on that. But I would say the last 5-10 years, very clearly that trend is totally getting disrupted as well. I think the hiring managers themselves are getting challenged. And until, frankly, some of the hiring managers and their practices genuinely change, right? Some of the old practices probably remain, but it's very clear to me that the way new employees are going to add value, are going to be proven valuable to companies or their own companies or starting their own businesses is going to be very different from how things were done in the past.
Do you think that it's industry specific? Do you think that specifically in industries like finance and more traditional industries that's the case? But when we look at things like AI and blockchain, sometimes the university dropout who is self-taught is more lethal than the fully degreed BSc with a master's and a PhD.
Are you going to take that?
I think related to this issue, I think just 2 months ago, we signed a partnership agreement with JP Morgan. JP Morgan, I'm sure everyone knows, to help them source data analysis, big data people, and also machine learning people, because they just can't find the right sort of talents that are being produced by the universities, and so they come to us, right? And they realize that these advanced topics, traditional universities are just not churning up enough talent, and so they have to come to us.
Richard, what's your thought? Who is ahead when it comes to education? Do we still need a university degree to run the race, to get our entry ticket? Or have we come to a stage where anybody can buy a ticket simply by doing an online course?
Well, I personally believe the university degree still play a very important role. But indeed, going forward, I guess the online education will be a very big pie as well. And apparently, those things that some topic that you're talking about from school, that's all about the research topic from the university. It's not necessary. It's a course in the university. So as a student, even a graduate student, they may not able to involve those things that we are talking about today. Talk about AI. It's about, I would say, maybe 30 years ago. When I was in school, we also learned something about AI. But there's no use case. There's no application there. And today, a lot of things that you can use it only because the use case appear. So we know how to do it when you really working in the community, not in the school. So I would say, yes, the online education or say AMBLE is definitely a trend. And I believe that things can be built up based on blockchain technology as well, using the token economy to drive that to going forward.
I'm going to put you on the spot just like I did them. You're an investment company, you make a lot of investments. If you've got two people sitting next to you, both pitching a business idea to you, one of them is a PhD, and one of them has done 10 online courses in AI and blockchain. Which one would you be more inclined to invest in? And how can I change your perception?
It's not comparable. It really depends on our demand. Okay, it really depends on our demand. If we like somebody to do some basic research about the industry, maybe we need something from PhD, I would say. But if we like someone to have some hands-on stuff, and you know how to deal with the deal, how to negotiate with the project, maybe we like someone with some experience. So it really depends.
Now, how can we change the perception of hiring managers? What can we do to change the perception of hiring managers, to make these online courses, who we all agree are the future? What can we do to change habits in traditional industries like finance, like journalism, like every other industry, so that people find online and self-taught courses much more acceptable?
I think one of the exciting things is that we don't need to change perceptions of hiring managers. I think there's a statistic in the US, something like 20% of people under the age of 25 believe that they will not get a real job at a big company. Right? 20% of these young people believe that they will make their living through as a freelancer, working for a platform like Phoenix, like Red Pulse. And these people are learning all sorts of different skills. I mean, the simplest is becoming an Uber driver, becoming a chef on whatever platform they have in the US. But now there are platforms like Red Pulse. There are platforms where you can also rent your engineering expertise and do blockchain development and so on and so forth. And this is where hiring managers, it doesn't matter what their opinion is. And so people are learning these skills online, and they're going to platforms like Red Pulse. They're going to platforms like, we have a platform where you can get outsourcing jobs and freelancing jobs. But this is where the future is. And this is where more and more and more young people now believe that their career is going. And this is really changing the way that we think about work.
So we have a new generation of workers going out there. You can call them whatever you want, Generation Y, Generation Crazy, call them whatever you like. Can we segment that generation into two parts? Can we segment that generation into entrepreneurs, be they micro-entrepreneurs or macro-entrepreneurs, and then traditional workers? Is that maybe a good segmentation? And say that the micro or macro-entrepreneurs are probably more suited for the non-formal education system, whereas there are some who want to go and work in traditional jobs, and those ones may be more suitable for traditional education system?
I'll leave Robert to answer the education question. But I was just going to add to what he was saying. It kind of links to your previous question that we don't need to change actually the perception of hiring managers about which candidate is better, because in the end, it's about the results. It's about who can actually perform and deliver, right? And so it's really a question of, what type of education programs or systems actually produce the type of people that can perform in the economy of tomorrow, of the new economy of tomorrow. And the hiring managers, if they get it wrong, they will be out of a job themselves. So by definition, they will have to be learning how to choose the right ones. And back to the last question you just posed, so in that sense the question is, do universities produce entrepreneurs? Right? We kind of know they don't, right? Rather than having people that have proven themselves over and over again, starting businesses and failing and starting and failing. So who will produce the results? And naturally you would answer the question.
Now, before you pass the microphone, I think just take the microphone back, because I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to run away from my next question. So, can you see the hiring manager at IBM who's working on the new Watson project? He has two candidates in front of him. His job is to minimize risk. He says, I want to make sure that no one comes back to me ever and says, you hired the wrong person. If you were hiring someone to work on Watson and you were the IBM hiring manager, do you really think that you would have the courage to hire a non-formal degreed person who had done online courses, and you'd have the conviction to stand in front of your boss and say, I hired the person who was more suitable for the job?
Well, I will say that the way hiring practices will likely be done for this type of projects going forward will itself not be the same anymore. So you're not going to have a decision made by a single hiring manager and that person having to decide which one. The nature of hiring itself would probably also start to evolve, where there is maybe a concept of a proof of work even, right? Like you get a few candidates, you give them some trial experiment projects or whatever, and see who comes up with the best way of thinking around it. And that becomes another evidence that the hiring manager can hide behind, right? Like, see, we have web trial and the PhD guy just flopped it, and so you can't blame me if the PhD guy is not hired.
Richard, I'm going to hand this over to you. I'm going to come back to you. What do you think? Do you think that if you were the hiring manager at IBM, you would have the guts to hire the person that did the online courses?
Well, to be honest, the answer is no. I would say for those people, they are online, okay? They are online, they are not finished their education in the school. Well, they can be entrepreneur. And I would want to say that actually we have offline, we call Juniper University. We try to help out to inspire the entrepreneurship of each individual if they do have that potential. It's not something that you can teach in school, I would say, okay?
Now, we used to live in a world where when you spoke about being an entrepreneur, you spoke about taking a very big risk. Because you spoke about this very scary thing which was called the J curve, which is that all businesses go down and then turn around, and then maybe some of them, if they're lucky, go up, and you guys as investors know this. But in this new sharing economy, we've created a new type of entrepreneurship where there's actually no J curve. For a person who wants to contribute to a Red Pulse, there's no J curve. They wake up one morning and they can write articles and do some research and contribute. For someone who wants to drive an Uber, I think you used that example, there's no more J curve. There's not much time and there's not much investment. You download an app, you do a very simple test, and you become an entrepreneur. And the question I ask you again is, have we created a world where becoming an entrepreneur is that much easier? And university degrees are creating great job employees, whereas online courses and access to online applications is creating a new world of entrepreneurs. Can we segment it like that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So first of all, the IBM Watson question, our AI course is actually built with IBM Watson, with actual projects from IBM Watson in the course. So the student graduates from the course, proves that they can complete projects from IBM Watson, and IBM Watson can hire them. And this is something that we're actually exploring with Red Pulse to help them train financial analysts that would later go on to Phoenix and Red Pulse. But to answer your question directly, I think, yes, I think the world is moving faster and faster and faster and faster. Right? There's not as much time for you. If you went into a college program and spent 4 years there, the opportunity that you see today will probably be gone by the time you graduate. Right? And so online education, what it does is that it offers those people who take the risk to say, okay, I'm not going to go into that 4-year or 2-year or 3-year program and say, I can learn this for 3 months and then I'm going to jump on that curve, as you said.
Does that make the J-curve a lot shorter? I mean, in traditional businesses, the J-curve used to be 12, 18, 24 months before they knew if they were going to turn. You're talking about 3.
Yeah. Basically, what we see from our students is that they join one of our courses, 3 months. I mean, it depends on their background. So, we had a student who was 46. She had 2 kids. She's never programmed in her life. She came to us. She learned how to program. She learned deep learning. She learned self-driving car. And now she works as a computer vision engineer at Alibaba. Self-driving course.
When she left your course, what did she have in her hand? Did she have a degree? Did she have a diploma?
Yeah, from us, it was 3 courses. Each course took 3 months, and it was, we call them nano degree certificates. And so she comes out, she has 3 certificates now. She goes to Alibaba and says, here are my 3 certificates. And she gets an interview, and she gets the job.
Richard, over to you. Do you think we're creating a world where we are fostering new entrepreneurs much quicker?
Yes, well, first of all, about the platform, I guess for those certification, that actually there's a lot of things can be trusted by token, by all those contributors and also the providers in the society. That's a good thing. And then with that said, actually, token economy, that Red Pulse is trying to build right now, the token economy is going to help the entrepreneurship as well, because they are able to easier to get the fund, right, and to start a project. No matter it's probably going to do success or fail, but it's easy for them to start.
So I met a project very recently, and the project had a very interesting concept. The concept was that you don't do an online course and you don't do a degree. You just read. You read Time magazine, you read The Economist, you read financial magazines, and every time you read, using the blockchain, you earn tokens in specific industries. And your employer can see how educated you are by the amount of stuff that you've read in your free time. Could that be the future of education? Why do I need to go on a course?
I would say no. I would say no. And I think the reason is, I think TF made a really, really great point about doing projects. Being hands-on and actually proving you can do something, proving you have a skill, right? So do you have the skill to write a financial analyst report? Do you have the skill to build a public and private blockchain? Do you have the skill to build an AI that's capable of trading, right? And if you can't prove those things, then why would I give you a job? It's like, okay, you've read a lot about AI. It's like, so what?
So it's all about being practically tested.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll always go back to results, right? That in the end, we can market a education program however we want and package it and gives it fancy names and so on. But in the end, it's always about the results, right? And I think that's really what we're talking about. Like, we're not talking about disruption for the sake of disruption. It's really disruption because it produces better results. It actually meets the needs better, and that's what is going to make it happen ultimately. And just a quick flashback on the question of the J-curve, because I do that all the time. I would agree that, in fact, it's no longer really a J-curve. It's now more of an inverted L-curve, right? It's like this way, because it's absolutely true that it's not that difficult anymore to be an entrepreneur. I mean, the cost of starting a business or having a business model you can ride on in a new economy is fairly prevalent. It's not that difficult to start out as an entrepreneur. So you don't get a J, but you get a flat curve. But the challenge is always in who can actually scale and who can exit or who can achieve that takeoff. That, I think, still requires a lot more effort and talent, and that's really where the results at the end of the day come in.
So let's talk about the costs of traditional education versus the costs of online training today. Where are we in the landscape? And I think you're probably most qualified to answer that, right?
So obviously, for the costs of traditional education, I think a lot of the cost goes into the lectures and the infrastructure, so the school and the sports teams and all those things. Online education makes it extremely affordable for anyone to pick up any skill within 3 to 6 months because we cut out all that fat. Right?
So what does an undergraduate degree cost at a good university in the United States today? 3-year degree or 4-year degree, what does it cost? What does it cost for you to walk out of there with a degree?
So, I mean, at top universities, it'll cost you anything from at least $200,000 to maybe up to $300,000
And
US.
when you walk out of there, you don't really have a skill that you can apply in the real world. You have a generic undergraduate degree in commerce or in philosophy or in marketing, right?
It depends on what you major in, but I would say that 80% of the majors don't really have a real
Okay,
skill.
now what is a normal online course which empowers me or gives me the skills to walk directly into the workplace and make a real difference cost today?
So I mean, there are, you know, obviously Udacity, we focus on tech training. So all of the areas that we train engineers in, whether it be web programming or AI or blockchain, all of these areas are really hot areas where companies cannot hire fast enough to fill them in. On the other side, the other big sort of talent gap is also actually in the financial market. So in the financial market, especially in China, there's a huge demand for financial analysts, for quant traders, for people that do corporate finance, so on and so forth. And universities are not training fast enough to supply this demand.
Cost. Okay, let's get to the cost. How much does it cost me? I am a 18-year-old student. I'm an 18-year-old person who's just finished school. On my left, I have a university degree at one of the top undergrad degrees in the USA. On my right, I have an online course. What's the cost difference?
The cost difference is nearly 50 to 100 times difference. So the online course will cost you maybe at most $5,000 US, anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 US, whereas the university degree will cost you $200,000 to $300,000 US.
And do you think that you need more than one course to arm you to go into the real world?
I think it depends on what your starting level is. So if you have zero experience, it will take you a little bit of time to get into it. But if you have a little bit of experience, like you can do a course, you can immediately get a job on a freelancing platform, start learning through experience and making money at the same time and being an entrepreneur. But it's something that you can immediately get after just one degree.
Richard, do you have kids?
Yes.
How old are your kids?
14 years old.
Great. So in 4 years, your kid, your boy or girl, in 4 years, your girl's going to come to you. And she's going to say to you, look, Daddy, I don't want to go to university. I want to do an online course on AI. So instead of it costing you $200,000, it's going to cost you $2,000. How are you going to respond to that, Daddy?
Well, it's not a problem for me because I already do the saving for her education. Already, okay? I do a lot of money put it in bank already.
What's your daughter's name? I'm going to say, Daddy, I know you saved $250,000 for my Harvard education. Can you give me the $250,000 because I want to go with my friends to Ibiza? I will keep $2,000 and I will do an AI and blockchain course at Udacity. Great institution. How would your wife respond?
Well, it's really tough, right? Well, you know what? Actually, I personally studied the PhD program in school, in university as well, so it's very tough for me. But I would think, well, in the future, in the long run, I believe the traditional education is going to exist in parallel with the online education, but the traditional education need to be changed, not something, not the same as today, but it is, okay?
But how? How can the traditional education system, today when you walk into a university, probably in 3 years you'll learn about the blockchain. In 3 years I don't think the blockchain will exist. I think we'll have a new kind of technology which we won't call the blockchain. How can traditional education, which is charging 100 times more, did you say? 100 times more. How can they compete?
Yeah, it's really hard. So I say the traditional education system need to be changed. Okay, need to be changed. Have some innovation way to do that. They not just simply give the degree, maybe give some specific certification. And back to the online program, actually, they're more focused on more professional specific skill set. It's not like something you can learn from the society, the culture you can learn from the school. As I know, a lot of people, they don't do the professional skill set education in school, but they do something later on after the school. So it really depends. But to be sure to the answer, well, if I would respect whatever my daughter wants to do, no problem for me.
I'll tell you a little story. When I was in university between 1993 and 1998. I did one degree in between 1993 and 1998. I did a degree in finance, accounting, and investment management. I did not switch on a computer. None of my modules had any computer working in, not a single spreadsheet, and not a single PowerPoint presentation in an entire degree. When I got out of university, and the first day that I got into a job, I needed to learn how to use Excel. That is my recollection of the traditional education system. If they're going to survive in a world of disruption, they're going to need to really, really change. Any ideas about how they can change?
Yeah, well, what I can say is, I did 4 years of education in a prestigious overseas university, blah, blah, and all that.
And you did a CFA after that?
After that. But if you ask me what I actually learned at the university, it's actually probably the social aspect of the university life, right? And the traveling and the experiential experiences and that kind of thing. I think increasingly will become more and more part of what formal education needs to provide.
So you think that formal education is going to become much more experiential?
I think it'll be a combination of a lot of stuff that we discussed, right? I mean, it can't just be a classroom, textbook based, no spreadsheets, no computers, type of stuff. But maybe there will be some jobs or some professions that would still require that, right? But I mean, in many cases, the fact that the world today is run differently, right? My kids start using computers at whatever, 3 years old, right? They start reaching out to computers. So it's just the way life is today, right? And so the education, the way education is delivered, the content, I mean, all that will naturally evolve. So cost might have to come down. They have to justify why they're charging so much for if it's not going to lead to jobs and results. So I think the economy itself will hopefully, adjust the way things are done.
Let's quickly touch on that. So how important is the social aspect once you've left school? Once you've left traditional high school, when you get to college and university, how important is it that you are surrounded by amazing people? I was further educated at Harvard, and the people that I met at Harvard form the basis and platform of my business network. So every time I need something, the first phone call that I make is to my Harvard class. How important is that, and how much of that are you missing out on when you do online courses?
I think I would absolutely agree with TF's statement. I think especially in the next 10, 15 years, I mean, there's an estimate that 50% of the jobs as we know them today are going to go away. And so what do you need to succeed in a world where AI has taken over most of the jobs out there? And the answer is you need creativity, you need problem solving, you need social networks. And those are the three things that is really difficult for us to teach online. And that's why the TF is absolutely right, a future in which there's a blend of online and offline so that at an offline university campus you can get the most cutting edge education. But at the same time, you can also get the sex, drugs, and rock and roll that comes with the university experience.
Okay, so I'm gonna hand it over back to you, TF. Harvard network, 3 years or 2 years of studying with Harvard people, is that worth paying an extra 100 times the amount for?
But it depends on what you do with it afterwards, right? I think there are people who maybe go through multiple degrees, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, maybe tick all boxes, but end up doing something that has got nothing to do with the networks that they have acquired. And then you can be someone who's gone to Berkeley, where else from, for a summer program. And actually, the people that you meet just over a summer program is actually what allows you to build fantastic businesses in your career, right? So what you get out of it, ultimately, it's still really up to the person involved. And just by paying money and having a name ticked next to your box, doesn't do it.
Final thought from you, Richard. Esther's going to come to you and she's going to ask you about whether she's going to Ibiza and to an online course or whether she's going to Harvard. Would you recommend the network to her? Is the network important?
Yes, I do believe network is important. That's what we are doing here. Network is very important, definitely.
Great. Guys, thank you very, very much. Thank you.
전문 제작자들이 만드는 컨텐츠 그리고 개인 컨텐츠 뭐 유튜브나 UCC, UGC들을 만들어내는 분들의 그 컨텐츠의 차이점과 블록체인이 이 차이점의 IP 보호, 유통과 수익 모델에 어떤 변화를 일으킬지 한번 보겠습니다. 이번에도 렌 유너님께서 패널리스트로 진행 모더레이트 해주실 거고요. 저희가 한 분 한 분 모시겠습니다. YSYS와 바이스 차이나의 브라이언 차오 님을 모시겠습니다. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 그 다음에 아펙스의 CEO 지민후 님을 모시겠습니다. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 네, 그리고 한국의 탑 크립토 유튜버님이시죠. 많은 분들 이미 잘 아실 것 같은데요. 킬러웨이 안재윤님을 무대 위로 모시겠습니다.
Understand why they asked me to moderate this panel because I work for CNBC. So theoretically, I'm a professional journalist. But the reality is that no, I'm not a professional journalist. In fact, I've never been a journalist. I'm not a professional journalist. I'm actually an entrepreneur who had an idea to start the world's first televised cryptocurrency show. And without any journalist training, I went out and started working for CNBC. So I'm not one to push professional journalism versus procured content. I think if we could just get an introduction from all of you, just a 30-second introduction of who you are, what you do, and what your interest is in this topic.
My name is Brian Chow. I'm the CEO of YSYS and Vice China. So I don't know if everyone knows what Vice is or does, but we're the world's largest youth media company. We're content creators at heart, and we basically focus on culture and content for young people. So that's sex, drugs, travel, food, art, technology, whatever it is that you like or are interested in. We have content about it, whether that's editorial or video content. And then we also work with brands to help create campaigns to reach young people.
Okay, wait, before you go on, you mentioned we. Who is we when you say Vice? Who makes the content? Is it your own journalists, or is it the crowd? Is it procured content?
Are we getting to question one already? So we actually have everything in-house. So we create all of our content in-house from a video perspective. But yes, we do work with contributors, obviously in terms of scale, to be able to create and put out so much content every day. But the contributors that we work with are vetted by our own individuals. So to a certain extent, we have a centralized individual or group that basically goes through all the content to make sure that there is uniformity and quality and everything that goes out across our platform.
And how do your contributors monetize their content?
We pay them for it.
Centralized? Do you decide how much they get paid, or do they share in the revenue?
Centralized.
YouTube.
Hi, I'm Jimmy, founder, CEO of Apex Network, a blockchain project, and that's that.
If you could tell us a little bit about what Apex does.
Yeah, Apex is a blockchain for consumer applications, so it focuses on problems such as consumer data, CRM, decentralized data storage, and things surrounding building a better relationship between the enterprises and their consumers or customers.
My name is Kevin Am, and I'm a YouTuber in South Korea. I only talk about like cryptocurrency and blockchain, and I've been doing this for a year. Currently, I'm associated with Chain Partners, which is a very popular company in South Korea, and I'm starting a marketing firm it's a subsidiary. and I'm very happy to be here. And to be honest, I'm not as professional as this guy, so I might give out like really stupid answers.
Well, what we're going to prove today is that you don't need to be as professional as those guys. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about your YouTube channel. So you say you've been going at it for about a year now. How many subscribers have you got? Is it a monetized channel? Are you actually making money from the channel?
It is actually, compared to other YouTubers, like foreign YouTubers, who talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency, it's relatively small. It's only 38,000. But it's the second biggest channel in South Korea. And I've been trying to monetize it for a while, but I'm going to start monetizing in a smart way, because I don't talk about ICOs, I don't ask them to invest in it, because I think it's really stupid. Personally, I know this is Red Pulse's event, but I personally believe that 99.9% of ICOs are going to fail. So I never talk about them because I think it's all bullshit. And I've been trying to monetize it, but in a smarter way.
Do you have any other job? Do you have any other source of income other than your YouTube channel and your passion in creating content?
Chain Partners pays me very well. Thank you for the CEO. Thanks a lot. And except that, no, that's the only income. And I invest a lot, so yes.
So you are the epitome of a non-trained, non-professional, as they call it, journalist. Who's making a living out of procured content.
That's very true. I'll never say that I'm professional, whether it be 5 or 10 years, because personally, I don't think there will be anyone who's professional in blockchain. Like, we can genuinely say that I'm professional in blockchain, because unless you're like Satoshi Nakamoto, you can never say that you're. It's always going to evolve.
So, are you saying that I'm not professional?
Except Satoshi Nakamoto and Del Larry Martin.
Okay, so let's now bring us on to the next topic of discussion, which is, what do we now in this world deem a professional journalist, a professional content creator? Do they have to have a big brand like CNBC or Reuters or Vice behind them, or where is this line between professional journalism and procured non-professional journalism? Is there a line?
So I have very limited knowledge in this particular area, but what I do know is that kind of decentralized content creation is something that has started happening before even this recent wave of blockchain technology, blockchain projects. One good example is Medium. So back in the day, when you need to publish an article, a post that can reach a certain number of people, it needed to go through very centralized channels, media, and etc. But I think Medium was one of the first companies that tackled this in the non-blockchain space. So
I agree with you, and I think it goes way beyond Medium. It goes even to Facebook and Twitter. I mean, in fact, a lot of the crypto news that I get as a crypto journalist actually comes off platforms like Twitter. Now, again, I think the question is, you say you don't have much of an interest in this, but you're a user of media every single day. Where do you draw the line between what is what you consider professional and what is what you consider unprofessional or uncredible journalism?
well, I think here's the thing. You don't know until really you look at the content, because there is actually very non-credible content from supposedly credible sources, right? So I think there's, technologies, projects, and companies that's really focusing on this particular problem right now of how do you increase the quality of the content and use automated ways of, curation, production, etc. And of course, people are trying to tackle this with blockchain too.
So, which country do you live in?
China.
Excellent. So when you hear in the news, and I'm going to define the news very broadly. It can be Twitter, Medium, CNBC, Reuters, etc. YouTube. You hear that the South Korean government has banned cryptocurrency. Which medium do you believe it from? If you read it on Twitter, do you believe it, or do you wait for it to be endorsed by someone who has a badge behind them like me from CNBC even though 80% of the time I get my journalism from Twitter?
Well, I think Twitter is one of the least things I believe in, for obvious reasons, because it's so easy just to post something, something random that hasn't really been filtered or anything. But yeah, it's sad to say, but it's true that if a credible source, such as CNBC, reiterates this particular fact, then more likely than not, without thinking too much, I would just, take it for granted as a fact. Right?
So is that a gap to build some kind of staking mechanism or reputation type token for quality of news?
I think definitely that is something that quite a few projects are trying to tackle, maybe in different areas. Red Pulse is trying to solve this in kind of financial information, market information.
They have solved it.
Oh yeah, it's true. Out of 99% of the ICOs that are useless, that are BS, Red Pulse is the 1%. Yeah, that's it.
Let's go back to Vice. So, I'd love to hear your views being, as you admitted, a centralized organization. How do you define who are the credible contributors and who are the non-credible contributors?
That's a tough question. I think it comes a little bit back to, first of all, it's personal relationships. Second of all, it's the stamps that we get from educational universities, institutions, from work experience.
Online courses.
If it's credible, right? But the question then becomes, where does the credibility come from, right? So I think this becomes to a much deeper and a much longer philosophical debate in terms of where is the stamp coming from and why is that stamp relevant and important, right? So you look at universities, for example, why do people want to go and get a degree from Harvard? Because for the last X number of years, they've always shown that they are producing the most intelligent individuals coming out doing successful in business or education or whatever. So I think to a certain extent, there is the history and the depth and the length of time at which something has been proven and I guess reported and supported by society and people and individuals such as yourselves, right? So I think what you were saying before, Red Pulse and what they're doing in terms of building this kind of rating system and being able to say this individual comes from a credible background. He may not be a professional journalist, he may not be a writer, but he is an expert in this field, and therefore he has the understanding and the support and the data and the experience to be able to talk about this particular industry. Now, so then the question then becomes is, who's reading it and how are they perceiving the content and what is the importance of that content and what has it being monetized. So I think the bigger question I think is when we look at the people that we want to work with, obviously there's the initial stage of who do we know, where is that person's background, and then it gets down to is this person kind of come from or in line with the kind of perspectives that we're trying to.
Now, which hotel are you sleeping at? Here in Korea.
Intercon.
When you go to bed at the Intercon, do you lie there and go, oh my God, blockchain is about to disrupt my business, oh my God, blockchain is about to disrupt my business. Do you worry about the blockchain really disrupting you guys?
No.
Why not?
I think there is value in blockchain in the long run. Right now, am I worried about it? No. 5 or 10 years? Yeah, maybe. So do we need to jump on it now in terms of to get ahead of the curve? Yeah, potentially we could think about it, but am I going to spend 90% of my time worrying about that? No. I'll spend 10% of my time thinking about innovation and technologies in blockchain that may disrupt media. But the other 9%, I still got to do my day-to-day business and make sure we run and grow.
So let me run a thesis past you and tell me, if I was sitting at the head of Vice, I'd probably be thinking like this. You're in a world now where a centralized organization is only as strong as the number of contributors inside the centralized organization, which is relatively small compared to what the world has to offer, right? You have a new mechanism called a token, and a token can be used to reward contributors automatically. It can be used to get their reputation automatically, so you can automatically understand who the credible people are and who the non-credible people are, and you can reward them, which can give an organization almost overnight with the right network effects. It can give an organization, it can disrupt you, and it can disrupt a centralized organization in a matter of months or maybe 1 or 2 years. Does that not keep you up at night?
I mean, when you say immediately or 1 or 2 months, I think you're talking very fast, right? Because you just said you have to build the credibility. Even if we were to have this token, it's not like everyone here, even if there are experts, everyone's going to know that they're experts. As you said, these are a small group of people, but there's millions, billions of people out there. So the question then becomes is how long does it take to get to scale where you have individuals that are becoming experts and are credible enough over time? So that's the question. It's really how long will it take to build that credibility?
So the truest form of that kind of network type disruption was the network type disruption that Uber caused on the taxis. It was real network type disruption because the more drivers there were, the more passengers there were, therefore the more drivers there were, therefore the more passengers there were. It took Uber 2 to 3 years to disrupt a 100 or 200-year-old industry called taxis. Do you not think that with the blockchain, which Uber didn't have, Uber still had to buy cars, trade cars, drivers. Here we're talking about someone doing an online course, someone going onto YouTube and being rewarded instantaneously with a token. Do you not think that it will happen much quicker than 2 years or 3 years?
No, I don't.
Can you tell us why?
I just think Uber, they disrupted the industry, but they still had hiccups for another 3 to 5 years after that, right? And there's still issues in terms of the way that they disrupted the industry. And there's still being facing issues now, right? Because now there's being backlash from government, regulation, all that kind of stuff. So yes, I think there could be a general disruption, and there might be a hiccup, and there might be early adopters that might make the changes or kind of go down this route. But in the long run, it's still going to take some time to get to a point where you can accurately say, okay, this person is credible because he has proven time and time again for a certain period of time across multiple industries, across multiple continents, across multiple platforms, that this person is the highest rated individual.
Where do you get your news from, your personal news, when you wake up in the morning and you want to know what the day holds? Where do you get your news from?
An RSS feed that comes from all different places. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, Vice, obviously.
Okay, I'm going to hand it over to you. As a YouTuber, what kind of responsibility do you have to your viewers and your potential viewers and the entire YouTube community to make sure that what you report has credibility? And as such, what kind of research do you do before you report something? What is your fiduciary duty to the community?
It's a really great question. The problem with cryptocurrency is that there's so many fake news, and people don't read the newspaper, to be honest. Even if it says that the information is true, like there was a problem with the Bloomberg that talked about the Coinbase and the security and those kind of stuff. And the next day, in Korean news, he said that what Bloomberg said was all bullshit. But in fact, if you read it really closely, Coinbase had the authority to, and they decided to deal with the security tokens on their exchange, which is a very, very big deal. And what I realized is it's very difficult to know if information is right or wrong in cryptocurrency. So what I try to do is most of the other YouTubers try to be very rapid. If there's a news, they just tell the news because with that they get a very high view. But what I do is I rest at least for like 48 hours to see how it develops.
But then how do you know that your content is relevant? In cryptocurrency, 48 hours is a lifetime. And 48 hours ago, Bitcoin was at $7,600. Today, I think 48 hours later, it's at $7,300.
Because I don't care about the price, it's the main goal. I'm more about education. I don't really care if the Bitcoin goes down, Bitcoin goes up. That's really none of my business. Because if you think about the fundamental of Bitcoin, it's not probable that it's going to go down. Because there are 21 million of Bitcoin, around 5 or 6 million are lost forever. And there are more millionaires than the Bitcoin exists. So it's very probable it's going to go up. So as the time goes on and as I study more about Bitcoin, as I study more about Ethereum and those kind of stuff, I become certain that the price, like the more I don't care about the price, the better my content becomes.
Do you trust traditional news outlets? When you hear a story coming out of CNBC or Bloomberg or Reuters, specifically around cryptocurrency, because your field of expertise today is cryptocurrency, right? When you hear a story from CNBC or Bloomberg on Reuters, being someone that is so close to the ground in cryptocurrency. Do you trust what CNBC says?
Not really.
I'm going to ask you the same question.
Well, frankly speaking, I've never watched CNBC on cryptocurrency.
You should. There's only one show that you should watch on CNBC. It happens on every Monday and Thursday night at 8:30. It's called Crypto Trader. Otherwise, everything else there's no need to watch. So when you read, if you wake up in the morning and you read an article from a Bloomberg or from a Reuters or from a CNBC that there was an exchange hack and that in the hack $150 million was stolen, do you believe that article, or do you then go and verify it through something that you believe is more reliable?
Well, I think it depends on the content as well. So there are certain types of content that's more susceptible of being warped, etc. But in terms of exchange hackings, you know, I would think it's typically more closer to objective than some other stuff. But personally speaking, I would probably just see that as a piece of information to consider or to protect myself, etc. It doesn't necessarily have to be the full and complete truth. I mean, I'm getting value out of it, at least in some form.
So do you believe, and I'm using specifically cryptocurrency because I think cryptocurrency is the epitome of a new technology that maybe old journalism doesn't really understand very well, and therefore their reporting standards are not as good as fellow YouTubers. I personally believe when I watch YouTubers that the level of content that you get from the right YouTubers is much, much, much more valuable than the level of content that I get from a Reuters or a CNBC. In fact, a lot of my stories are broken by other YouTubers, and only then do we take it onto CNBC. Now that can be indicative of an entire industry, of an entire segment of new industries, which traditional journalists struggle to keep up with the pace. If you watch a show today on CNBC, and I'm using CNBC only because that's where I am, if you watch a Fast Money or one of the other shows, you understand that there are YouTubers and contributors that have much better knowledge of the topic than a broad channel can have. And the question is, in this day and age, with technology working so quickly, do we believe that anyone can procure content?
So in the case of YouTube, I think cryptocurrency is something that's special out of new technologies because it has several different characteristics, right? So one thing is really the lack of verifiable information. Though, okay, you have lack of verifiable information, but you still have information coming out sometimes on real time. And they're more like small news feeds that you can pretty much conclude in 1 or 2 sentences. Now, what I see with a lot of these articles is that they actually don't have that much content to write about. But in fact, they're trying to write a real, true news article. Now, instead, a YouTuber comes up and just kind of spits out the facts in a more straightforward fashion. I think that certainly suits the case better. So that's.
Yeah, I think we're using YouTube. I think we're using YouTube as an analogy for all what we call non-professional, perhaps procured content. And I think if you could just answer that, you wanted to answer the same question, and then I'll move on to my next question.
I'll be very, very frank. I don't think professional people, professional reporters, will be as good as I am in a million years.
Because
in the field of cryptocurrency, it's very important to be very, very frank about something. I don't care how many subscribers I have. I don't care how many views I get. And I really don't give a fuck, to be honest. It's not about not taking responsibility of what I'm saying. I take full responsibility of what I say. But I'll give you an example. As I said before, I think 99.9% of ICO is going to fail. They're not meant to survive. It's not a sustainable model. I think Tron is very scammy. I think there's a lot of problems on Tron. And I know there are investors who invest in Tron, but I think it's all bullshit. And there are a lot of projects that are not meant to work. And do you think professional people will ever be able to say on television? No, so I just say what I feel like, and I take full responsibility for what I say, but I don't think like professional people will be able to say on the television that they don't talk about what they think.
So I think that when you say you take full responsibility for what you say, it's a half-truth. Because you may think that you're taking full responsibility for what you say, but no one is going to sue you as a YouTuber for loss of revenue as a result of making a business decision based on the information they receive on YouTube. Whereas if I go out and break some news that is incorrect, and a company goes and loses a lot of revenue, I'm sure that you guys have a legal team which is designed to protect you from stuff like that.
Yes?
So, are we moving to a future where there's going to be a combination of internal and procured content? And if so, is the blockchain the mechanism to drive it?
I think we're already there. I mean, I think the interesting thing about cryptocurrency and blockchain is that it's happening so fast that you have to look at the way that we've gotten to the point of why media is so important, journalism is so important, why we look at it as professional, right? Because again, it's about history, it's about time and time again, people being verified and reported as credible. Blockchain is something so new that you haven't had that time to be able to establish who the credible people are. Now, YouTubers, for example, they're going to be on the front lines. They're able to move faster because they're either one-man teams or they're smaller, more nimble teams that can do and gather information faster and have more on the ground. Whereas obviously a big corporation like CNBC, you're moving like a tanker, right? So I think in that sense, to a certain extent, you have this unique situation where as cryptocurrency gets more and more widespread and people are becoming more interested and people are more knowledgeable, then you're able to develop credibility, and then you're getting to the point of, okay, maybe we should believe these YouTubers because they actually are more credible, right? Whereas maybe we'll never get to perceive.
So let's actually break it down. What are the advantages and disadvantages of procured content?
So I think procured content allows for a more diverse amount of content from a wider range of people, right? So you can have more scale in a faster time frame. You can have more diverse opinions, and to a certain extent, it can be cheaper. Now, you can also have more in-depth content because if you're procuring from experts from different fields, then obviously that individual, whether or not he's a journalist, as I said before, it doesn't matter because he's knowledgeable in that particular space. So in procured content, that's the benefits, right? The professional side, I'd say, is, and the reason why I think we're already there is that most of the biggest platforms are already obtaining contributed content, right? Whether they're paying for it or they're getting it for free. The difference is, I think, how are you curating that, right? So as I said before, typically in more of the traditional media organizations, it's still centralized in the sense that there's one editor-in-chief or there's like a deputy editor. And these are the people that go through all the content, whether that's written in-house or contributed from an external party. But it's about maintaining the uniformity and maintaining the quality that is representative of that particular media outlet. If you can find a way, and I think this is where blockchain comes into play, is that if you can find a way, or as Red Pulse has already built, a way to improve the verification and the credibility of these people and build a rating system so that you can trust who is reporting or who is creating and contributing content, then I think that allows for a much more disruptive part to the
So before we finish off, I'm going to ask you guys all the same question. Do we think that the blockchain and the token economy, by virtue of the fact that we can do immediate rewards, and by virtue of the fact that we can reward people internationally no matter where they are, and by virtue of the fact that we can build reputation using tokens, do we think that the blockchain has pretty much solved the problem and that the problem doesn't exist anymore of real fake news, of fake news and lack of credibility? Do we think that if the blockchain came in and every news portal in the world used the blockchain, that the problem is solved?
No, because I think you can still game the system. For example, if you're looking at ratings systems and scoring kind of programs, there are obviously ways to game that, right? So Vice did a story a couple months back about the most highly rated restaurant in London, right? It's called the Shedit Village, which is a restaurant that never existed. This kid, basically, I think he was 20 years old, basically went on Yelp and gamed the entire system so that over 1 year, he basically made this non-existent restaurant into the #1 restaurant in North London. Everyone wanted to go, but it didn't even exist. So I think the question then becomes is how do you protect from, click farms, for example, in China, which are going out and having like millions of iPhones and just clicking on something and uploading something. How do you prevent that, and how do you kind of manage that, the potential for scam artists? That's, I think, the question that blockchain, at this point in my understanding, is not yet there, but I think at some point, hopefully they'll get there.
Do you think blockchain has solved this problem? Do you think that when the blockchain is really implemented, it will solve the problem?
It could, not right now, because right now a lot of projects are still trying to tackle the infrastructure problem, so it's really at that phase of the industry. So, but no doubt it'll start taking market share away from these centralized entities. But in the beginning, these centralized entities have somewhat of a more rapid execution ability and some kind of economies of scale if they've achieved that scale already. So when the infrastructure is ready, then we start to see, okay, the progression of it kind of taking over more the traditional market.
Last comment for today, do you think that the blockchain will solve this?
No. First of all, I think it's very dangerous to think that blockchain is going to solve everything. People think that because blockchain is here, the banks is going to disappear and like middlemen are going to disappear. I don't think that's going to go. It's going to take a very, very long time for it to happen. The problem with blockchain is, as you mentioned, it's very difficult to verify if information is right or wrong. We have reached a stage where we can, like if we look back at the blockchain of Bitcoin, we can definitely say that a person sent a Bitcoin to another person. We can be very, very sure about that. But how do we verify and be very, very sure about the reputation and those kind of stuff? I think it's going to take a very long time, and I don't think blockchain will ever be able to solve it. I mean, it might be able to solve it in partially, but I don't think we'll ever reach that level.
Let's agree to disagree on that one. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you.
키노트 프레젠테이션을 드디어 들어보겠습니다. 레드펄스의 수장이자 CEO인 조나단 하가 직접 진행해 주실 예정인데요. 오늘 이 자리에서 최초로 공개하는 소식도 있다고 하니까 큰 기대하셔도 좋을 것 같습니다. 먼저 조나단 하를 소개하겠습니다. 조나단 하는 토큰화된 중국의 리서치 에코시스템 레드펄스의 창립자이자 CEO입니다. 레드펄스 전에는 주요 금융기관의 경영과 전략에 대해 컨설팅을 해왔고요. 미국 펜실베니아 대학에서 컴퓨터 인지니어링과 경제학을 전공했고 UC 버클리 하스 비즈니스 스쿨에서 MBA를 취득하고 CFA를 보유하고 있습니다. So without further ado, Jimmy Ha.
안녕하세요. I am Jonathan Ha. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Pulse, and now I'm very excited to share more about Phoenix and what is Phoenix about. So get ready. Red Pulse Phoenix. So this is something that we've been preparing for the last several months. Actually, ever since we completed our token sale in late last year. To set the stage a little bit more, I want to share more about the history of Red Pulse, the company. So Red Pulse launched in 2015 to solve several key problems. First, the fact that there is market consolidation to just a few key players in the financial research space. Number two, a lack of information accuracy and transparency. And finally, number three, most importantly, information overload. Several key observations that we've made since building this business. The first one being that research as a service, as a product, was very quickly becoming commoditized. These clients were less and less willing to pay money for generic research. But at the same time, we made another observation that these same clients are willing to pay for bespoke, on-demand research. So this is research that you can't find anywhere else. It's only residing in the minds of industry experts, and it's these industry experts that can provide unique insights into capital markets, into industries, into key trends that are impacting companies. So with that, we have shifted our focus. We've rebranded. Check out our new logo. And today, 2018, we've hit several major milestones. And it starts from the the past several years of creating a research platform that reaches over 60,000 people globally now, consisting of finance professionals. We've also launched our mobile app and partnered with major financial terminal platforms such as Bloomberg, Thomson Reuters, FactSet, and S&P Capital IQ. Late last year, we launched the very first ICO on the NEO blockchain. Very honored to have been able to do so, and very happy, actually, with the technology that we built upon. A little bit later on, just 2 months ago, we released our internal beta of the research platform. And today, what is Phoenix? Phoenix is the launch of our research platform. It is now fully open to everyone. Okay, so a lot of you have been asking, what is Phoenix? It's now live. 3 months ahead of schedule, we are now launching Phoenix to the world. Very excited about that. Very soon, we are also upgrading our Phoenix infrastructure. And in just a few moments, I'll go into a little bit more detail as to what that means. Our vision, as Red Pulse and as Phoenix, is to build a knowledge ecosystem that connects financial institutions and corporates with industry experts and analysts sharing their insights. Ultimately, Red Pulse aims to solve a key problem that all of us face today: information overload. So the release of our Phoenix beta, what does that mean exactly? And I'll go into a little bit more detail as to what that entails. Number one, it's a platform for everyone. Every single person out there in the world can sign up for Red Pulse now. No longer only for finance professionals. So that's really exciting. Second, we are now open for contributor applications. So while everyone is able to log in, sign up and log in, view all the content, rate all the content, it's not yet open for everyone to contribute, but very soon. So for now, we've set up a contributor application process, and you can apply to be a contributor to our platform. There you go. You can also earn RPX. So this is a big part of our platform. We truly are a tokenized research platform now, because when you come onto our platform and you are approved to be a contributor, you can actually earn cryptocurrency. You can earn our cryptocurrency, RPX, by sharing your insights on capital markets. RPX. You can also earn staking rewards. So this is a big deal also. All of those RPX that you've earned as a contributor will grow over time. If you stake it on our platform, part of our token economy is that you get rewarded with additional tokens. And finally, of course, you can withdraw all of the RPX that you've earned and also been rewarded as part of our staking rewards process. So a few quick screenshots as to what it looks like. This is all live, by the way. So any of you that are watching at home or on the computer, you can go to www.redpulse.com and you'll see this. And if you want to open up your mobile phones, you'll also see this. It's live. You can sign up to be a reader. You can apply to be a contributor. And as you go into the site, you'll see all the content that we have today. And initially, what we're covering are China market events. At the bottom, you'll see the original author, the amount that they've earned, and the ratings that they've received on each of these contributions. Also launched what we call IntelliFeeds, which is scraping major market sources of information and applying it to our platform for use as a source when you're writing your notes. My workspace, as a contributor, you can see what contributed articles that you've been working on as well as others. And this is what it looks like when you're creating a note. As well as my wallet. So this is really exciting, guys. So when you're creating all these notes, when you're earning staking rewards, of course you can see all of it right here in your wallet, multi-currency with US dollar, Red Pulse RPX, and Red Pulse Fire. So let me just take a moment and explain Red Pulse Fire. So when you have RPX that you've earned on our platform, that's either earned or you can actually also deposit it onto our platform. That's cryptocurrency. That's the token. Now, in order to earn staking rewards on our platform, you have to do what we call firing up. It's the term that we use. So you can take your RPX, fire it up. Fire it up to turn it into RPF. Okay, so once it turns into RPF, you can earn more rewards. And over a period of time, over 30 days, you can fire it down into RPX to be withdrawn. And here's the withdrawal process. Transfer to your address, the amount you want to transfer out. Go ahead and click send, and you receive it in your public wallet. This is your profile. Every person is building credibility. And we just saw two fantastic panels talking about knowledge, talking about education, talking about professional versus contributed content. And all of those things pivot around one singular concept: credibility. How do you build credibility in a world where there's so much information out there? You are building credibility by having a profile on our platform and having all of the history of your past contributions right there, as well as the ratings from the audience, ratings from the crowd, truly harnessing the power of the crowd, the wisdom of the crowd, so to speak, and being able to tell and demonstrate who is expert at what. And there's your credibility. As we scale, you'll be able to have a better sense of confidence in who is actually sharing the information, because you can see what is their track record of contributions and what has contributed to the credibility. New feature schedule. So we've got a lot of great new features coming up for you guys. Very quickly, next week actually, July 27th, we are launching mobile app version 2.0. And so that will include all of the features that you saw just today on the website. Very exciting. August 3rd, a couple days after that, we are implementing what we call a paid Q&A feature. And this is the precursor to our upcoming Knowledge Network. And I'll share a little bit more about Knowledge Network, of course, in just a few moments. But what paid Q&A is an ability for our clients to look at the event notes, see who the author is, and ask them a specific question. Why? Because those people that wrote those notes, they have credibility. They have insights. They have the knowledge, enough knowledge, to have written that note and done so credibly. And so when our clients, when our Fortune 500 clients, when our financial institutional clients want to ask a quality question, they can. And they can use the RPX token to pay for those questions and those answers. Coming up August 3rd. August 13th, we're also going to be streamlining the contributor approval process. So, as I mentioned before, right now the approval process is on a case-by-case basis. You know, we want to maintain quality. But we are implementing several new procedures that will help us to scale and streamline that in a much more robust fashion. Because we do want to scale this. We want to get to the point where the majority of the content is contributed by outside parties. And then finally, on August 20th, we are going to implement RPX deposits. So much the same as an exchange, you can deposit RPX from outside of our platform into a specified wallet on our platform and start earning staking rewards. That is Red Pulse. www.redpulse.com. It's live today. Please do check it out. But I do also want to spend more time on Phoenix. Phoenix the platform, but also Phoenix infrastructure. So I'll set the scene in terms of the knowledge industry. There's a couple of key trends that we've noticed. First being the gig economy. Just generally speaking, not just for knowledge, but for any industry, we've seen a trend take place where there are these people that are part-time, freelancers, contractors. They're not full-time employed by employers, yet they are earning a living by working part-time. You know, whether it's doing so on 99 Designs or Upwork or what have you, this is really becoming a major trend in the industry. So some very well-known platforms such as Airbnb, Uber, and Lyft, they're known as sharing economies. Gig economies are different in that there's a multitude of type of work that's available to be done on these platforms. And the research organization RAND has analyzed that 94% of new jobs that were added in the US are categorized as freelance. So it's a very big deal, quite a big impact. The other major industry trend within knowledge and information is the rise of these so-called expert networks. Okay. So if you recall back to our key observations about research, number one, nobody wants to pay for it anymore, at least not the general research. But number two, they are willing to pay for custom research, and that's where expert networks come in. Expert networks, this is GLG, GuidePoint, Third Bridge, and Alpha Sites. They've done a fantastic job in monetizing the idea of connecting experts with financial institutions, because they're seeking these unique insights. They're seeking this on-demand nature of financial information, and they're willing to pay for it. But it's also very manual. This is one of the key weaknesses of this business. It's very manual in trying to find experts, brokering inbound requests with experts, and then finally hand-holding them through the process. There are immense compliance risks with only basic training of the experts as communication. And that's a good segue into the third trend, which is regulations in the information and knowledge industry. From expert networks, we've seen many insider trading court cases. And these are investigations into situations where these expert networks have been facilitating the sharing of what's called MNPI, material non-public information. So MNPI, you're not supposed to share. These are corporate secrets, corporate information, and the sharing of such information can be considered illegal if you then use it to trade, right? So there's been a lot of court cases surrounding that situation. There's also a regulatory framework called MiFID II that the EU recently implemented, and it's focused on consumer protection, also very related to research, our field of business. So what are we doing about it? Phoenix is not only the launch of our platform, it is also the upgrade of our underlying infrastructure. It's composed of 5 key elements. The first being what we call proof of creation. So what is proof of creation? It's us being able to secure research content in a hashed form and storing it, registering it on the blockchain. It's proving that you as an individual, you as a research analyst, created this, at what time, and what is the content that you created, and who owns it initially. That proof of creation is what ties us to the blockchain, and also what resolves much of the compliance risks that we see today. Much more from a deterrent perspective, I would say. So if a contributor knows that all of the things that they're contributing is of record, is stored in some form, registered on the blockchain, they will think twice about sharing material non-public information. And if any sort of regulator wanted to see what information is being stored, they can do so by checking the blockchain. Second, what we call proof of ownership. So this is related to creation, but different, because along with registering that content, we're also registering who owns it. And that ownership can also be transferred. So what we're creating is essentially a non-fungible token. It's a bit of a buzzword or buzz phrase that we've been hearing recently, but an NFT is essentially a way, it's an asset that can be transferred from person to person, entity to entity, much in the same way that a token is transferred. But the token is unique in itself, which is what the term non-fungible means. So there's been projects that focus on artwork and turning them into NFTs. There's a project called CryptoKitties, which is one of the earliest examples of an NFT. We're creating an NFT out of intellectual property, out of research content, out of professional content. And it's that content that you can transfer ownership to other parties. Regulatory compliance, I mentioned this earlier, but any sort of investigation that takes place, any sort of scrutiny by the government or other regulators, as long as you can produce the original content and show that it connects to the hash on the blockchain, then it proves compliance. It proves compliance in the sense that whatever content that you said you shared is actually true, and it's stored there as a system of record. IP protection, this is a big one too, and it's very closely tied to ownership, but by checking the blockchain, you can see without any doubt, 100% certainty, that it was you that registered that content at what time, and what is that content itself. And finally, this is a big one, accountability. Very closely tied to credibility, but you need to be held accountable for what you say. And one of the biggest problems that the internet ushered in, I mean, the internet's fantastic, I mean, everyone uses it on a daily basis, but the anonymizing aspect of the internet made for a situation where essentially anybody could say anything. and you weren't really sure if it were true, if they had any sort of built-in bias. But with accountability, and the accountability that we're able to execute using the Phoenix infrastructure, is then tied to every person's profile, every person's reputation, so that if you're reading a piece, you're reading a contribution from that person, you can see their history of past contributions, making them accountable for what they're saying. How does this work exactly? Don't want to get too bogged down in the technical details here, but we are storing a timestamp, the hash of the content, the creator wallet ID, the owner wallet ID, as well as the signer on the blockchain. New functions is, of course, being able to store the hash content proof, transfer ownership, invalidate proofs. So a quick note on this. Typically, blockchains are considered immutable, or in other words, unchangeable, right? But there is one small use case. What if a malicious actor were to take somebody else's content and try to pass it off as their own by storing it onto Red Pulse? Hopefully it doesn't happen, but it may, right? We haven't scaled to the point yet where everyone knows us as the go-to source for market information. So until that happens, this may happen. And the way that we would counter this is not by changing the blockchain, that's obviously impossible, but we're making a note saying that, hey, that previous record, it's invalid. Because we've been able to prove that whoever registered that content previously didn't actually own it. So that's still a human process, but we needed to build that in just to ensure the validity of our research content. Other simple functions, of course, include getting the creator of a particular hash, getting the owner, the signer, the timestamp, and if it has been transferred, the timestamp of the transfer itself. To support the infrastructure upgrade, we are implementing a token swap, a one-for-one RPX to PHX token swap. So everyone that holds RPX in your wallets, it's safe, you don't have to do anything. If it's in your private wallet, we will be airdropping you the exact amount that you have in your wallet of PHX. And then we will be discontinuing the usage of RPX on our platform in your wallets as well as on the exchanges. The schedule is very clear. August 11th, all exchanges suspend RPX trading, withdrawals, and deposits. August 12th and 13th, we'll be taking a snapshot of the entire NEO blockchain, checking RPX balances at a specific block height. August 14th will be the airdrop of the new PHX token. So some of you probably already noticed our new PHX smart contract on the NEO blockchain. We put that up a few days ago, hoping to still keep this a nice surprise, but many of our community already noticed it. And so they're right. We are doing a token swap, and it's intended to support the infrastructure upgrade of all the great elements that we're including. After the airdrop on August 14th, on August 19th, all exchanges will commence PHX trading, deposits, and withdrawals. And on August 20th, as I mentioned before, this is when everyone will be able to earn staking rewards for PHX. PHX that you either earned on the platform or bought on exchanges. You can put that onto our platform, stake it, and earn more. Here are the supporting exchanges. I'm happy to say that all of our exchanges are supporting the swap. And it's great to have their support. We also have many new partnerships. So you saw Robert Shum from Udacity. Robert's a good friend, and we also recently struck up a partnership between Red Pulse and Udacity. First being a hiring partner of theirs. So people that graduate from the blockchain program, from development programs, engineering programs, they're also potential candidates for hire at Red Pulse. And if we hire them, then of course we would cover all of their tuition fees. What I'm also very excited about is the potential for co-building a curriculum focused on financial analysis, focused on China markets, and focused on professional writing. And so the people that would graduate from that program would immediately be onboarded to Red Pulse, and also with a higher credibility score, be able to earn more, and be able to have higher influence. We're also partnering with AGB Education. AGB is a Singaporean-based education platform. They're both online and offline. They have the full support of the Singaporean government. They have subsidies from the Singaporean government. And we are already working with them to build a financial analysis curriculum. So people that enter their program and graduate, they immediately get onboarded as a contributor at Red Pulse. We also have a partnership very recently signed with TalentSnap. So TalentSnap is a very interesting company. They are a recruiting agency. So when you think about us creating this knowledge ecosystem, we need people to contribute their insights, contribute their expertise. And what better way than to tap into the talent that recruiting agencies are constantly trying to find, right? So these talents, these candidates, they're trying to find a new job, or perhaps the recruiting agency is trying to connect those candidates to new job postings. And at the same time, they will be onboarded to Red Pulse as an industry expert, as a contributor. So of course we want to scale organically, but we're also scaling through partnership. And finally, Red Pulse is partnered with Apex. So Apex is a consumer data company that also did their ICO earlier this year. And we're partnered with them on several fronts, one being that we are implementing their data analytics engine. We're also partnered with them on AI and machine learning. And finally, they are a consumer-focused blockchain platform. We are working on blockchain interoperability between Red Pulse Phoenix and Apex. Several key elements that all tie together. The idea of experts, research, education, and finally recruiting. So this virtuous cycle, it's all related. It creates an ecosystem of knowledge, not just research, but of knowledge. Something that we're quite excited about. And that is Phoenix, a knowledge ecosystem. Thank you very much.
갓 출시된 따끈따끈한 레드펄스의 피닉스 데모 버전을 직접 등록하고 사용해 볼 수 있는 워크숍을 진행하겠습니다. 워크숍을 맡아주실 분은 레드펄스의 공동 창립자이자 데이터 과학자인 스탠리 차오인데요. 스탠리 차오는 금융투자업계에서도 헤지펀드, 펀드 마켓 거래, 대안투자 등의 방면으로 굉장히 오랜 경력을 갖고 있습니다. 미국 워싱턴 대학교에서 컴퓨터 금융과 컴퓨터 수리과학을 전공했으며 CFA 및 CIA 보유자입니다.
Hello everybody, great to be here. Exciting news, isn't it? I mean, the platform was originally slated to be released at the end of the year, and here we are. We're over a quarter ahead of schedule, so I'm really appreciative of the amazing work our team has done on our product. So we are going to do a live demo of Phoenix, and so let's hope the internet or no other issues pop up. But I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown. And like John said, everything on here is live and working. So as you guys can see, we designed the outside page or our main landing page for a more magazine-style format. This will help drivers to our website, help drive people to our website. And in addition, visitors can now get a preview of the content. Previously, our entire site was locked down, only available for our corporate clients. But now our visitors can get our content in real time also. So once logged in, you will see all the event notes on Phoenix with the advanced searching on the right-hand side. And I'm going to go just over really quickly on IntelliFeeds. Now IntelliFeeds is meant to help people find information very fast and to help with people with information overload. We are getting information from a bunch of different sources, scraping this automatically and displaying it to our users. So for instance, clicking into this, you will get the PDF embedded in the website for ease of use. and display on the related tags. In the future, IntelliFeeds will have quite some more features. For instance, extraction of information, automated translation, and more importantly, customizable feeds. So for people who only want to know about specific industries, sectors, companies, or keywords, that will be available. Going to the profile, you will see the person's information on here, including all the notes this user has written. So this user has written quite a bit. And this is the integration with LinkedIn. So you are able to import your profile from LinkedIn in order to populate your data. And now we come here to My Workspace. So this is where research contributors, translators, editors, or any content contributors come to manage their work and all the content they've been producing. So I will do an example of how to actually create a research note. But before we do that, we have up here a button that says Become a Contributor. So here is the example form. It's fairly short. You fill it out, and our in-house staff will take a look. So here's the example on how to create a research note. So over here, we add the resource, also an event. Once this information has been filled out, an editor has to approve this. For instance, in case of duplicate entries or some things that may not be suitable for a platform. And the process is, once that has been approved by an editor, this can be claimed over here. So claiming means you have rights to produce this research. And once you have claimed it, now you're able to write the note. Example of note that's already been filled out. And once you hit publish, it will be pushed to the website and to our app. Now I'm not going to do that because this is actually our production website, so if I hit publish, then that would actually be produced on the website. So this is example of for people who do become contributors and how to write for us. Now the other question is, once I have produced this research, how do I earn money? What about, where do I manage all the RPX that I have earned? So up here, under your profile, you can go to My Wallet. And this wallet, this is a multi-currency wallet. So we have 3 assets here. On the very far left-hand side, that's the USD account. And users are able to top up funds in USD with this button, Add Funds. It's a very, very simple process. Add the amount and your credit card details. Once you hit Add Funds, the funds will be there instantaneously. Now, most people watching this live stream or in this room probably won't be using the USD top-up account. This is more for our corporate clients or for users who want more customizable research. These are for large financial institutions who necessarily don't want to deal with all the hassle of buying crypto on the open market and transferring it. So this allows for an easy way for our corporate clients and financial institutions to purchase research. In the middle column, this is the second asset, the Red Pulse RPX. So this user has earned 4,000 RPX for producing content. And I will explain a little bit on how to fire up. So as Jonathan explained before, firing up, that means staking your RPX. And it's a very simple process right here. Click the fire up, add the amount that you want to fire up. And once that's fired up, it will move over to the right-hand column, which we call Red Pulse Fire. Under here, the paid yesterday, you can see how much this user has earned for staking. It's 0.07 RPX for staking. I know a lot of people here and watching the live stream are interested in this function. There's also the ability to fire down. So also this is a very simple process. You add in the amount that you want to fire down and submit it. I know there's still going to be a lot of questions, and I want to keep this short, but we will be producing a frequently asked questions list to be published later on our website that answers all these questions more in depth. So some of these other features, such as USD to RPX and deposit withdrawals, these will be implemented in the near future. And in the meantime, we can see the transactions on the bottom. So this is just a list for everything that this person has earned. So for instance, right here, you see where this staking earned the 0.07 RPF. And if you want to get a clearer view on what research I've written, has earned how much, this is under the My Earnings tab. So you can see some of the RPX earned here for the second content, for the second article. And this goes back to all the content that you've written. And so, I know it's been a long day, and I appreciate you guys' patience for sitting here through all the exciting news. So I just want to keep this demo pretty short, but this is just an example. Again, this is live, so people can come on, click the button on if you want to become a contributor, and start earning some RPX. So I appreciate you guys' patience, and thank you for your time.
AMA Q&A 세션을 진행할 텐데요. 조나단과 스탠리가 직접 실시간으로 질문을 받아서 여러분께 답변을 해드릴 예정입니다. AMA 세션을 진행하겠습니다. We will start off with the AMF session. Are there any questions that are off limits, off-bound questions?
No.
No?
Ask anything you'd like.
Okay, Stanley, the same. 네, 금기된 질문은 없다고 하니까 자유롭게 마음껏 질문해 주시기 바랍니다. So let's start right at the top. The first question. Do you have any plan to support prices? 가격 방어 정책이 있나요?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So our objective at Red Pulse is to build an ecosystem and to build a platform. And I know a lot of people out there, they're wondering about the price of RPX, right? And soon to be PHX. So while we are not specifically focused on the price, one of the biggest drivers of the price is having an ecosystem to actually use the token on, right? And one of the comments from the earlier panel was the 99% versus the 1% that is actually delivering value, real value in the real world, and that's what we're doing. So in creating this Phoenix knowledge ecosystem, we're actually creating a use case for the token, a fundamental intrinsic use case that then leads to value for the token, and that, of course, leads to price. Because price, if you're talking about airdrops, if you're talking about burning, of course, it's going to have a short-term impact on price, but we're here in the long term. We want the token to be strong and healthy, and the best way to do so is to create a strong and healthy ecosystem.
Okay. I've got a relatively light question to follow up with that one. 좀 가벼운 질문입니다. 회사에서, 레드펄스에서 두 분 중에 누가 더 인기가 많으신지라고 질문이 왔습니다. So at Red Pulse, who is the more popular among your workers?
Probably Stanley. I think he's down in, on the ground, running around a lot more than I am. Probably outside of the office more than inside, which I'm trying to change. But Stanley is friends with everyone, and I think that's one of his key qualities.
Would you agree?
I think I treat people with some food, so maybe that's why they enjoy it.
So you bribe them?
Yeah.
Alright. 지금 이 순간에 고마운 사람 2명을 이름을 알려달라고 또는 더 정확하게 설명해달라는 질문이 있어요. So if you could name or describe 2 people that you are most thankful to right now.
Have to be my parents, my mom and dad. Easy answer, I know, but it's something I honestly, truly believe. And they've given me the opportunities. Having they grew up in Taiwan and immigrated to the U.S. in the 70s. That's where they met. My dad actually went over with barely anything. He had the shirt on his back and I think $1,000 US in the 70s. And that's what he started with. And he started taking courses, not university level courses, to increase his, his skills and his marketability, and gradually over time, he went from, I think, bussing tables and driving a delivery van for Levi Jeans, working 3 jobs, I forgot what the third one was, to eventually scraping together enough money to go to San Jose State University and enter their master's program in computer science. So he went from driving delivery vans and bussing tables to getting a master's in computer science, working for IBM. My mom worked for Apple in the 80s,
Wow.
so I had a parent at Apple, a parent at IBM, very much a child of Silicon Valley, so I grew up with computers, I grew up with technology, and I myself became an engineer as well. So a lot of that inspiration came from my parents.
Were they opposed to you entering this field?
The blockchain field?
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not really sure they completely understood it
Okay.
at the time. But they heard about an ICO. They were a little bit unsure as to what that meant, but they've always been supportive of me, and that's I've been very thankful for.
Okay, and Stanley?
I have to say probably the same answer. I think my parents, our family have similar backgrounds. My parents also came from Taiwan, and my dad went to Texas A&M for a master's in computer science, and to support him and my mom, he was a janitor at the school. So she always knows the value of hard work, and they've always been supportive of everything I've done.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Someone wants the stickers that are on the cup. 컵에 붙은 스티커가 예쁘던데요. 스티커 남은 거 있으면 가져가도 되나요? 어떤 스티커를 말씀하시는 건가요? So can they?
Sure, I don't see why not. Guess what? You can even take the cup home. That's fine.
컵 자체도 가져가셔도 좋다고 합니다. So let me spin the question that the 2 people that you're grateful for. Let me spin that around and ask you, which 2 people should be grateful for you?
I'll let you take this one first, Sam.
Okay, that's a pretty tough question. Who should be grateful for me? I would probably have to say, back at home, my dog.
Oh.
So he passed away last year.
Oh.
He was 14. So he was grateful that I hung around him. I think that's a secret to people life.
And you? Have a safe answer.
I think probably my future children. I can't say I can really claim that there should be people grateful for me, but one of the things that I've learned from my parents and from my friends that have kids is that it's a complete game changer. Not only in a sense of where your priorities lie, but it's that sort of unconditional love that you have for your children, and that children have for their parents, that is bound by the family obligations.
Right.
And I would say not until I have children would I be able to really rightfully say that I have people that should be grateful for me. But looking forward to that day.
Alright. The next question. 블룸버그와의 관계가 무엇인가요? What's your relationship to Bloomberg?
Bloomberg's been our distribution partner for almost 3 years now. So this is not an easy thing to have achieved. They don't let anybody onto the platform. So we went through a several-month vetting process where they received our content on a daily basis and ensured that it was of high enough quality and substance to warrant to be on their platform. And it's also great for us because it was a brand builder. We were able to push out the Red Pulse brand in a much broader way than we were able to do if we were to just do it alone.
Okay.
Just to add to that, our content on Bloomberg is free, so anybody who has a Bloomberg terminal can view it.
Alright, that's a big
Free
bonus.
for now, that's right.
The next question. 스테이빗과 비슷해 보이는데 어떻게 생각하시나요? The question is that they think, after looking at the Phoenix demo, it seems similar to Steemit. What do you say to that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't shy away from the similarity because we drew inspiration from Steemit. In fact, in our white paper from day one, we referenced Steemit as one of the key inspirations for Red Pulse and for Phoenix now. We're not exactly the same though. There's one very obvious difference, and that's that we are focused on professional content. Professional in a sense that it is intended for use within financial markets, and at least for the start, at the beginning, it's intended primarily to be used by finance professionals and corporates. Now, there are other aspects that makes us different than Steemit. The other being the fact that we create credibility scoring, not just on a global basis across the entire platform, but on a per topic and per sector basis. So if you're an expert in, say, telecom, and you build that up over time on the Phoenix platform, if you were to go to the healthcare section and start writing, which you can, your level of credibility would start much lower, perhaps even at zero, and you have to build that up over time.
Okay, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
No? Okay. The next question. Do you have any plans to cooperate with Ink blockchain? 잉크 블록체인과 협업할 생각은 없나요?
Cooperate with
Ink blockchain.
Ink blockchain. We're always open to discussing collaboration. I'm not as familiar with Ink blockchain, but
Okay. What is token swap? Why is it needed?
The token swap is needed because in order to implement these infrastructure upgrades, which includes proof of creation, proof of ownership, IP protection, regulatory compliance, and accountability, we need to have that in the new smart contract and tied to the PHX token. And the original RPX token smart contract didn't have that. So we wanted to push that out. As you saw in my presentation earlier, in the information and knowledge space, regulations is becoming more and more of a critical element. And we wanted to be prepared for that. Marrying blockchain to the financial industry, but making sure that we're compliant as well.
The next question addresses the preparation period in getting to Phoenix. 피닉스 준비하면서 가장 힘들었던 점이 무엇인가요? What was the hardest part of preparing for Phoenix?
It's a pretty big project. We've been at it for a long time. I think just getting everything together, building the team up, getting people capable of carrying out the vision of Red Pulse,
Right.
which is the information and overlay. And just, I wouldn't say there's one specific thing, but it was the combination of putting everything together to get the product out and in time, and have everyone be able to use it right now. We did forecast it to have be launched near the end of the year, so it's, and I said earlier, it's very exciting that we're over a quarter ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
It took a lot of hard work from us.
And I would imagine a lot of hard work from you as well. What was the hardest thing for you?
I think being able to juggle my schedule because I'm simultaneously working with the product team, working with the engineering team, also doing marketing on behalf of the firm, speaking at conferences. So here for the entirety of Korea Blockchain Week, which was very exciting, and had the opportunity and the honor to speak at Beyond Blocks again, which was fantastic. But that, of course, takes me away from the office, right? And so my greatest challenge is, how do I juggle all these different aspects? And one of the things that I'm now very grateful for is that I have a great team that I can delegate to. And so we have marketing staff that's really doing well. We've got business development people. We've got engineers. We've got data scientists. And across the board, they've been fantastic.
Okay. The next question, very serious, once again, which means that it is not. 신체 부위에서 제일 마음에 드는 부위가 어디인가요? What's your favorite part, a physical part of your body? I'm sorry, I'm just reading the questions.
It's probably my hair. I spend quite a long time on my hair, so just this morning, probably a good 15 minutes, making sure.
Maybe my eyebrows. It's always been bushy. Thicker eyebrows are in style now, so
Right.
I'm grateful for that. Until thin eyebrows get back in style.
Alright, head hair and eyebrow hair. The next one. 토큰 수업을 지원하는 거래소가 예정되어 있는 게 있을까요? Any exchange platforms that you have in mind that will facilitate token swap?
All of the exchanges.
All of the
actually.
exchanges.
So we've already made very careful plans and spoken to every single one of our exchanges. They're all supporting us, which I'm very, very happy about. Grateful to them also. They've been great partners to us, and it's especially Binance and Huobi and KuCoin being the first exchange that listed us, they've been fantastic. And grateful to the teams at all those exchanges and helping us out as well.
And what does proof of creation exactly mean?
So proof of creation, it's proving that content does exist and was created by someone. And that seems like an easy thing to do, but it's not. Without the blockchain, without storing this on an immutable, transparent, decentralized blockchain, you're relying upon somebody else to tell you that, yes, this person did that, did this. And whether that's a news platform, whether that's some other centralized authority, that's something that you have to put your faith and trust in. Not to say that they would necessarily be wrong, but there is another level of confidence that's achieved when it's stored in a blockchain that nobody controls, to be honest. No one person or one entity controls. It's having that faith and confidence that this is the true record of what's being created.
A follow-up question from that was, how does it apply for Phoenix? How does it work through Phoenix?
Sure. So the Phoenix platform incorporates this new infrastructure upgrade, including proof of creation, proof of ownership. And so when people are creating content on our platform, it is hashed and it's also registered and secured on the blockchain. So forever, it will show that they were the ones that came up with this content, with this intellectual property, with these ideas, with this analysis, and it shows when they did it, and it shows who owns it. And if they decide to keep the ownership to themselves for all eternity, that's fine. The record will show that. If they decide to transfer ownership or sell ownership, they sell the document, they sell the content, and all use cases and for all purposes related to that content, then the blockchain would also reflect that.
Okay. Mainnet 계획이 있나요? Any plans for mainnet?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay. Anyone that you have not met yet, but would very much like to meet. 만나고 싶지만 아직 만나지 못했던 사람이 있나요?
So I would, very much like to meet Elon Musk. He's a personal hero of mine. And, I met his brother Kimball, who's also very impressive. While I was in Davos earlier this year and had a quick chat with him. But Elon, I very much admire all the things that he's done. I think he's a person with vision and knows how to execute.
Yeah, there's too many people to name. Some great scientists, people that are doing interesting things in the world.
Okay. Back to the keynote, the question asks, 오늘 키노트 만족스러웠나요? Are you happy with the keynote presentation that you gave?
I'm very happy with it. I hope everyone here is happy with it.
Now the question should be, are you happy with the keynote presentation?
Am I happy? I'm ecstatic. But, I thought it went very well, swimmingly well.
I did too. Thank you. 잊지 못할 선물은 무엇인가요? 이게 아까 초반에 들어왔던 질문인데 any present that you have received recently that you will not be able to forget about for the rest of your life?
Well, I would say cheesy answers. I appreciate any present that anybody gives me. So if anyone wants to give me a present, I will never forget about it and be very thankful.
So there's plenty of opportunities for that during the networking time. Right?
Oh, me. I would say the best present is probably the fortune that we've had, that I've had, in being able to launch Red Pulse and also complete a successful token sale late last year. A lot of it was from preparation, obviously. Stanley and I have been working on Red Pulse for over 3 years now and spent a long time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears building up the platform. It's not easy having a small startup, 8 people, working out of an apartment and being able to produce content that is distributed on Bloomberg terminals globally, right? So they probably weren't aware that we were, 8 people working out of an apartment, but we were, and I'm very grateful for the gift of fortune of having had the right timing and also the preparation to do what we did last year.
Great answer. Great to bring it back to Red Pulse and Phoenix. So the final question, they were interested in the work culture at Red Pulse. I'm not sure if they want to work at Red Pulse. Are meetings frequent? Yes. Are meetings frequent at Red Pulse? And I'm getting the sense that They want the answer to be no.
They want the answer to be
No, as in that meetings are not that frequent.
are not that frequent. We, to be honest, I think you can think of it as we have almost no meetings, or we have constant meetings, because the way that we operate, and I think Stanley can probably also attest to this. We are just constantly, moving back and forth between different areas of the firm, physically as well as, in terms of divisions. I walk by Stanley's desk, and we're talking about machine learning, we're talking about data science, we're talking about algorithms, and he just so happens to be sitting next to my chief product officer, and then the conversation just immediately turns towards our new product roadmap, and what we have in store for the next few months. James Marr, our COO, just happens to be down the hall, and so it's very easy just to spend all day, at least for me, this is my perspective, walking around talking to my team, and you can consider that a meeting. I mean, we're talking about work, we're talking about new ideas, but I love it. It's not one of those formal environments where we say, okay, the meeting starts at 3, it ends at 4, everyone show up, sit down, okay, take notes. We do have some set meetings, but most of the time we're just constantly, going in and out of discussions and conversations. And if you were to ask me, maybe this is one of the questions, what I love most about Red Pulse, what I love most about being an entrepreneur is being a part of the dialogue, helping to move things forward where I can be helpful, sharing and coming up with good ideas. It's all super fun, and I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity.
So the meetings are more spontaneous.
Very spontaneous.
Yeah. Right. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. We try to keep meetings short. I am personally not a fan of meetings, so we try to keep it short. Definitely a weekly meeting on some things, but yeah, it's so easy because we still try to operate like a startup. We don't look like corporate culture just because this industry that we're in moves so fast. You have to move fast to keep up pace with the competition, move quickly in order to beat everybody else out, and that's what it takes. So we don't want to operate like a typical corporate company. Try to keep that startup culture.
Yeah, and to add to what Stanley said, at the same time we have to find balance, because going from an 8-person startup last year to now over 40 people, obviously the communication channels have changed, right? You can no longer just stand up and yell across the small room and say, hey, this is what we decided, let's move forward. So we've had to evolve a bit, but the feeling, the culture, the vibe that you get in the office is still very, very entrepreneurial, very flat organization, and everyone is friends, everyone gets along, and it's a very positive environment to work in.
All right, we'll have to wrap it up there. Once again, please thank everyone for the AMA session and for the questions. Thank you very much. 호명할 때 손을 들어주시기 바랍니다. 손을 들으시고 앞에 오셨던 그 레지스트레이션 부스에 가서 저에게 연락처를 남겨주시면 저희가 지급하는 걸로 하겠습니다. Okay, so 8 lucky people. All right.
All right, number 159, 159. Anybody? No? Okay, let's just find another one. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. Want to come up on stage? Get all the winners up on stage. And then we'll take a photo together. Let's give them a hand, guys. Won a lot of RPS. All right, number 2, 23, 023.
23번 계신가요? 네, 없으면 다음 번호로 넘어가겠습니다. 오케이. Congratulations. 축하드립니다. Okay, 2 down, 6 to go.
All right, number 3. See what we have here. 181. 181.
181번 축하드립니다. 이렇게 하면 번호가 보이는 것 같아요. 제가 높이 들고 있겠습니다. So that you can't see the numbers.
Number 4.
160. 160.
160번. 계신가요? 160번? 네, 축하드립니다.
Number 22. 022.
22번. 네, 축하드립니다. Sir, congratulations. 그러면 we have 3 more.
3 more. Yep. Number 18. 018.
18번. 축하드립니다. 두 분 남았습니다.
Try to get one to the bottom here. 141.
141번. 다른 번호 뽑을까요?
The,
Yeah? Should we do a different
Yeah,
number?
let's do another one. Okay. 40. Number 40. 40.
축하드립니다. 야, 정말 열심히 타이핑하시던데 축하드립니다. 네, 마지막 한 분 남으셨습니다.
Okay, so last one,
Yeah.
guys.
몇 번이 되셨으면 좋겠어요? 번호를
Number 118. 118.
118번 계신가요? 네, 축하드립니다.
Good job, guys.
네, 축하드립니다. 잠시 네, 서로 해주시고요. 야, 오케이. 기념사진 찍고.